Remember the definition of champion? It's yes to outclass the competition, to become number one, to be the best, right? But it also means to be a defender of purpose or to fight on behalf of someone else. Whatever you're fighting for, what I want you to think about is how can we make the fight easier? Well, hey there, champion. Welcome back to the Champion Life podcast. I'm your host, Curt Tucker. Welcome back to another episode. I tell you what, over the last couple weeks, over the last couple episodes, I've had the privilege to share some people who are near and dear to my heart with Dr. Pompa and with Dr. Mike Slaughter, as we've talked about ministry, we've talked about health and wellness. Today's episode, friends, it's a solo episode, just me and you. And I want to bring you in for a second and ask you the question today, what are you fighting for? What do I mean by that? See, when I think about the word fight, I think about how aggressive am I pursuing my life? How am I getting after the things that I want? What am I literally fighting for? See, each and every day that we wake up, we get another opportunity to do this thing called life. And you know me, I love to look at life as like an adventure, right? I've talked about that before on this podcast that, each and every day waking up, I want to wake up like how it was when we were in grade school as kids. Now, for some of you might have to go back a lot further than others, like me, sitting here at 43. Sometimes I think, holy cow, do I remember second grade? But here's the deal. I actually really do remember second grade. I remember the field trip in second grade when we were going to go to this place called Bruckner Nature Center for the very first time. And they talked about the animals that were going to be there and the things that we got to do and how awesome and cool it was going to be. So I remember waking up that morning as we were going on that field trip that day and the sacked lunch that I was going to take and just the excitement that was on my mind for that day. See, I want to wake up every single day like that, no matter what I got going on for that day, because sometimes it can be so easy to forget how cool life really is. So I want to ask you the question, what are you fighting for right now? Like when you're waking up every single morning, what goals do you have that you're trying to accomplish? What about your family? Because when I think about what am I fighting for and where this episode, really even came from, as I was sitting here thinking yesterday and today about what I wanted to record today in the message, because, one of the things that I want to do is I don't just want to get on here and talk. I want to share real life scenarios with you. I want to share the things that, once again, I'm going through, things that I'm growing through. I want to share with you my successes. I want to share with you my messes. Right? I talk about that in my book, that if you want to impress people, tell them about your successes. But if you want to empower people, tell them about your messes. And so, over the last couple days, my wife and I, we had a few spats about a couple different things, right? And it was one of those things where it's like, oh, you know what? Sometimes marriage is tough. Like literally, you have to fight for your marriage. Like if you don't fight for your marriage, you are going to give up. And look at how many people do that, right? How many people just give up. I mean, the divorce rate within the church and outside of the church is 50%. And people who have been married more than once, it's actually 67%. Now, I don't say any of that to condemn anybody or to make you feel bad. In my opinion, it's because once you've done something once you've given up, once you've quit, once you've rang the bell, it's so much easier to ring the bell the second time. Okay, it's so much easier to say, oh, I just don't want to put in the work. I just don't want to make changes. I don't want to fight anymore, right? And we give up, we ring the bell. And so sometimes you have to, and whether that's in your marriage, whether that's in your business, okay, whether that's in your fitness where you might have said, hey, listen, I'm going to lose X amount of pounds this year. I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to begin to start doing things different. And you get going and you realize in the beginning, it's tough. But here's the deal. If you're willing to fight, if you're willing to keep going, if you're willing to not stop, that's how breakthrough happens. That's how a muscle is built. I've watched people year after year over year that have come into the fitness business, that have came into the gyms that I owned, or people that I've coached that have had a goal and I'm going to do this, I'm going to lose the weight, I'm going to whatever, and they get going and they're all excited, and then guess what happens? They're right back to where they started. Here's the deal. Motivation is great to maybe help you get going, but it won't sustain you. That's where there has to be a commitment. And that commitment is to fight. That commitment is to say that, you know what, no matter what happens, no matter what setback might happen, I'm still going to find a way. See, I always use this example of when you were getting ready to go on an amazing vacation, right? Like, hey, you picked out the best place. You're so excited. It's already paid for. You've been dreaming about it for months. You're so excited. And then the day comes, and now when you get there, the flight's delayed. Or maybe you're driving and you get 2, 3 hours into the drive. For me, I live in Ohio. And so when I think about, driving to, say, Florida to go to the beach, although I'd rather fly, but if I had to drive, I'm excited on that process going. But you know what? It's inevitable when you drive from Ohio to Florida. No matter where you go out in Florida, whether you're going to the Panhandle, the Destin area for us, or you're going somewhere to Clearwater Beach or Orlando or whatever, you're either going 75 south or you're going 65 south, and there is going to be traffic. If you hit Atlanta at 4 o'clock, you have now added 2 hours to your role. It just is what it is. So here's what happens though is when we hit a roadblock, when we hit some adversity, when we hit, a traffic jam, an accident or whatever, 8 hours into the trip for me, if I hit Atlanta, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to turn around and go back home. No, I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to try to do my best to have patience, right? Because here's what happens, by the way, friends, is when you face adversity, it will require patience. It will require you to say, hey, am I going to complain about this? Am I going to be upset about this? Am I going to be frustrated about this, right? This thing that's causing me to grow in my marriage, this thing that's causing me to grow in my business because somebody messed up and it cost me thousands of dollars, whatever. Am I going to be, am I going to stop because something happened in my fitness journey where maybe I tweaked something, I tweaked my back, my shoulder. I've had all those things happen, by the way. I've had to do push-ups on my knees because of my back. But it's like, hey, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to stop. One of the things I have is what's called a personal covenant. And I talk about this in my book. But one of those things that it says is that I am committed, okay, until completion. See, I don't want to stop. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't get hung up. That doesn't mean that I don't get snagged up on certain things. But it's like, hey, listen, like I remember writing this book where there was just times of frustration. There was, what? You want me to re-edit it again? Right? You want me to do this again? Like, I thought this thing was going to be published by now. I thought that this thing was already going to be done. And now you want me to re-edit it one more time? What? But here's the deal. The outcome was set that this is what we're going to do. So I want to ask you today, what are you fighting for? What are you fighting for right now? Is it your marriage? Is it a business? Is it, your fitness? Is it you taking your own personal development to the next level so you can become more valuable? Whatever it is, whatever you're fighting for, maybe it's a cause, right? I love people who support causes, charities, things. I just had the chance to speak the other night to this ministry called Joshua Recovery Ministries. And I see this brother and sister combo that are just fighting, okay, for these people that are in recovery, that are coming from some pretty dark places and living in these recovery houses, trying to get their lives back together. And guess what happens? Some people in those houses have relapsed. Some people in those houses are struggling in certain areas. but you have this brother and this sister combo that are literally up there speaking life into these people and just giving them encouragement and praying over them and celebrating their wins. They're fighting for those people. Remember the definition of champion, by the way. It's yes to outclass the competition, to become number one, to be the best, right? But it also means to be a defender of purpose or to fight on behalf of someone else. So whether that's you fighting for yourself, or that's you fighting for your spouse, that's you fighting for your kids, right? My wife always says, listen, I'm a great Christian. I love Jesus, but don't mess with my husband or my kids, because guess what's going to happen, right? So whatever you're fighting for, literally that energy, now it becomes, how do we take that energy and supply it into all areas of our life? Okay. So whatever you're fighting for, what I want you to think about is, how can we make the fight easier? There's a saying is that if you give a man 3 hours to cut down a tree, okay, one man just goes out there and starts just cutting and chopping and chopping and chopping and chopping, where another man, the wise man, sits down for a couple hours and he sharpens his axe. Think about that for a second. The one that just goes out there and just starts swinging the axe, swinging the axe, swinging the axe, versus the one that says, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have the sharpest axe so that when I go out here, I can almost effortlessly cut down that tree. Which one of those are you? Now, the way I like to picture that person is, that's one person that just gets up from the moment that the alarm clock goes off and they hit snooze 2 or 3 times, and then they immediately turn on their phone and they check their WhatsApp, they check their Facebook, they check their email, they begin to start watching the news. They don't have a plan for the day, they don't know what their goals are, things aren't written down. They're staying up late watching TV, they're scrolling on social media, they're hanging out with the wrong people. Versus the person who sharpens their axe is the one that has a morning routine, gets up and spends time in prayer, spends time in devotion, reading God's word, connecting with the Holy Spirit, getting wisdom, right? Knows what their goals are, has a clear path and a plan of how they're going to get there. Now, once again, when you have a clear path and a clear plan, it doesn't always go smooth, but at least you have a path and a plan and you can execute, right? You're investing in yourself. You've got books that you're reading, right? You know, I got about 10 books on my desk, and generally every day I'll read 10 or 15 minutes from one of those books. You know, it's different. You know, it's the 12-week year. It's Switch on the Brain. It's my book. It's, you know, the Battlefield of the Mind. There's just a couple different books that I'm reading right now on top of the Bible, and I'm watching videos. I just had this conversation with my son because I was encouraging him, which this just happened literally an hour ago, that he would sell his Xbox. Because I said, son, listen, if you can spend an hour or two playing that Xbox game, you could be spending an hour or two watching videos, learning something. How can you be a better DJ? For me, I watch an hour or two of videos in crypto, right? Why? Because that's something that I'm learning and I'm gathering information, and it's already made me a lot of money, but it's going to make me even more this year, right? But it's something that I've studied, so I'm not just aimlessly throwing my money into something hoping that it goes up. I'm researching constantly. So what I think about that is, what are you fighting for? And then it's like, what are you fighting with? Right? Like, as a Christian, you know, one of the things that we talk about in Ephesians is that we need to put on what's called the armor of God. See, when I put on my armor every single day, I'm now equipped to go out into the world. So now what happens is, when life starts coming at me, like, I've got the armor of God on me. All right. Like, I know, like, this breastplate of righteousness is on me. I know the belt of truth is on me. Like, I know when the enemy tries to speak lies to me and tell me certain things, that I can take that thought and I can hold it captive and make it obedient to Christ and say, yeah, nice try, devil, right? Like, so you've got to put on your armor, you've got to read the books, you've got to invest in yourself, you've got to get the course, you've got to go to the seminar, you've got to hire the coach, like all those different things, right? And what happens is when you put that time, you put that energy, and you start to learn how to fight. And I use the example, I love this saying, prior proper planning prevents poor performance, right? Like if we could just take 1 minute or 10 minutes each morning and say, what's my game plan for today? Like, what am I going to get done? What are the top 3 things that I must get done today that move me closer towards my goals? And then, boom, you just take action on them. All right. I think about how easy exercise is, but yet why so many people don't exercise. Now, I know that's not none of all you, because I know if you've been listening to my podcast long enough, most of you guys know how strongly I feel about exercise. It is the best drug. It's the best drink. It's the best Prozac anybody can take. And I encourage people to what I call exercise and exercise, where not only while I'm working out, but I'm also going to be listening to something powerful and positive, whether that's worship music, whether that's a sermon, whether that's, a podcast or whatever. But it's like, I want to train my mind and my body and my spirit at the same time, right? So what happens is, when you are armoring up, when you're taking time, like that example of that man that, he didn't just go out there and start swinging his axe, right? Like he took the time to sharpen his axe. And that's what I think about when Proverbs 27:17 says, as one man sharpens another, right? That's the reason why we have to be in relationship, which really brings me to point number 3, which is, who are you fighting with? Like, what are you fighting for? Okay. What are you fighting with? All right. And then who are you fighting with? Like, who are you running with on a daily basis that's feeding into you, that's speaking life into you, that's holding you accountable? See, one of the things that I firmly believe in is when you have the right people around you that are constantly speaking life into you, they're constantly holding you to this next level of accountability. When they know what you said you were going to do, and if you are not doing it, or when you come back, together a week or two later, there's something. I had a guy the other day, one of the guys I coach, say, dude, there's just something about when I told you that I was going to do that literally in 1 week of working with you, I can't believe how much I got done this week. It is insane. And he was like, and one of the firm things that I believe is because I told you I was going to do it, which is a little bit different than when I would normally tell myself I'm going to do something, or I would write it down, versus I told you I was going to do it. And I knew on Friday you were going to ask me if I got it done. What did I do? And I didn't want to give you some excuse like I've given myself. He's like, it was a game changer. So I want you to think about that. Like, who are you fighting with? Who's your posse? Who's your tribe? Who are the people that are surrounding you, or that you are around with, that are helping you win? Because I can tell you, there's a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? Like, you need to be with people. So I want to share with you, one last thing here, as this is going to be a short, quick podcast this week, is, hey, listen, my wife and I both have incredible things that we are building and growing in 2025. Her Warrior Academy, my Champion Builders Brotherhood, where if you're a lady on here listening to this podcast and you have never done a call with my wife, Rachel, you have never, spent 30, 45 minutes with her, talking to her, talking about where you're at and where you want to go. And by the way, this isn't for everybody, so I just want to put that out there. But if you're a committed person, if you're like, I know that I need some help, I've got next level goals, I want to be a next level leader, but there's some things in my life, because here's one thing that Rach and I see is, some of the people that we coach or we mentor, or we work with, these people we're not trying to drag them off of the couch, to try to take action. These are people who are already having success in areas. But guess what? You can have success in some areas and be struggling in others. It just is what it is. And so all of a sudden, what happens though is when you get in an environment, or when you can have somebody who can look at things from the outside looking in, like, it's really hard to see the label from the inside of the jar, right? So sometimes you need that outside picture to look at it and say, okay, I see this, I see this. Oh, boom. Did you see that? No, I didn't see that. And it's like, boom, it's a game changer. So if that's you and you're like, dude, I need help, like just reach out. A coach is not a crutch, by the way. We have always had that in our life in different levels, right? So anyhow, I would encourage you to reach out to Rachel. Go check out her stuff, her social media. It's very easy to find my wife, Rachel Tucker. And if you're one of the guys on here, and I don't care where you're at. I don't care if you're a business guy. I don't care if you're a faith guy. I don't care if you're a fitness guy. Hopefully, all those things are important to you, by the way, friends. Faith, fitness, family, finances, and fun are the 5 F's that I talk about all the time. And I don't believe that we can only win, in this area or that area. But I believe that we should be winning in every single area. That's what the champion life is about, a life of abundance and freedom and victory where we're winning in every single area. So if you're not winning in every single area, you have to ask yourself, why? Why am I not winning? And winning can be defined in a lot of different ways. Winning for me is having peace, right? Like it's nice to open up and say, hey, man, I've got this much money in my crypto account, or I've made this much money, or I'm in this type of shape, or whatever. But sometimes for me, it's just, man, I've got incredible peace in my life today. That's winning, right? And you'd be so surprised how many times I talk to somebody and they're not winning, they don't have peace. Sometimes winning is, listen, I overcome that addiction. I can't tell you how many men that I know that are struggling with pornography right now. We talk about this all the time in the men's leadership group that I lead at my church. It is an epidemic, okay, that men are struggling with, or, other things. I could go on and on and on, but here's the deal is when you have somebody that can walk alongside you. And so sometimes that's why you need a one-on-one coach, by the way. I love group stuff and I believe in it and we do some of that, but sometimes it's just powerful to have one person that you can talk to, that you can trust, that you can say, hey, listen, here's what's really going on. I want to be real and I want to get help and I want to go next level. And I'm not a counselor, by the way. Counselors are great to listen, but I'm a coach. I want to help you solve the problem. I want to help you go next level. I want to help you make more money. I want to help you remove those distractions out of your life. I want to help you get your marriage to the next level. I want to help you get in the best shape of your life. I want to help you have those things that you need. So anyhow, friends, sometimes you have to think about, who are you fighting with? Am I trying to do this by myself? Or, do I need some help? Because community and accountability are a game changer, 100%. So, as you think about the things that you're fighting for in your life right now, I want to encourage you on just a couple of different things. Number one, be so committed to being personally developed. Pick up the books. Spend time in the morning alone. I lay out my entire hour of power in the top 10 things that I do every single day in my book. Go grab a copy from my website, curtdtucker.com. We'll put the link inside, the show notes or whatever. If that's all you can do, start there. All right. If it's, hey, listen, I want to do more than that, book a call with me. We'll talk about the different levels we have of the brotherhood and how you can get involved and how we can walk alongside you to help you go next level. But I firmly believe this, that the best investment, you hear me say this all the time, is in you. Because if I've only got $1,000 to my name and I put that $1,000 in, the S&P 500 today, and I get a 10% return, which is what that gets on average this next year. All right, 10% of $1,000 is $100 that I'm going to make over this next year. That's $8 a month. $8 a month is how much I would increase by taking that first $1,000 that I have and putting it in an investment account. And some people are doing that. I had a guy the other day that was like, man, I'm struggling. My bills are continuing to go up, but my income's not, and I'm just like, well, dude, are you putting money in a 401k? It's like, yeah. It's like, okay, that's awesome. But you know what? If you're putting that money in a 401k that you're not even going to see until 60 something years old, who knows if you're even going to live that long at the rate of where you're at right now, where your health's at and everything else. and you're struggling to make more money, maybe you might want to look at acquiring some skills and looking at some things that can help you go next level and maybe launch a business, add some income on the side, whatever. And so if you're there, you have to understand that concept. It is really a paradigm shift to say, hold on for a second. If I begin to invest in myself, what skills can I have? What breakthroughs can I create so that now all of a sudden I can go next level? That's the reason why I've always believed so much in investing in myself, because once you learn those skills, once you create the right mindsets, once you get the right clarity on the things that need to happen in your life and the right strategies and the accountability, now all of a sudden those things, you just start to knock off goals one by one by one by one by one, and your life just goes next level. And friends, that's how we went from bankruptcy to living in a double, to not even having a car to our name, to finally getting a car, to tithing $40 out of a $400 check, to eventually going on and making our first $10,000 a month, and then eventually going on and building multiple businesses and owning franchises and all the things that we've been able to do. It all really started with a shift of the mindset of, listen, I need to learn, I need to become more, I need to invest in myself. And those are how we've been able to build our life, both Rachel and I. So I want to encourage you today, ask yourself, how committed am I to my own personal development? Because when you change, everything changes. When the man in the mirror changes, everything changes. It doesn't work the other way. A lot of people think, when this changes, I'll change this. No, it's you change from the inside first. You change from the mindset first. That's why we talk so much about mindset. You truly are transformed when you renew the mind. That comes from Romans 12:2, by the way. So anyhow, friends, I love you. I hope these last couple episodes have been a game changer for you. It was so awesome to be able to talk to my original spiritual papa, Mike Slaughter, and then last week to talk to Dan Pompa. I hope you've been including some of those health things in you. And now I hope after this episode, friends, that if you're still on with me this long, that you're saying to yourself right now, I'm ready to take action. I'm ready to go next level. I'm no longer settling just to settle. So, hey, shoot Rachel or I a DM. We would love to help. Book a call with us, get a book, whatever. Just invest in yourself, starting right now. And we'll see you on the next episode, champion. God bless. We'll talk to you later. See ya.